Welcome back to another episode of Jizza Zwifts. Today we're looking at my attempt of the SISU Pinkki, one of the grand tours in Zwift. This was held in the month of May, races on a Saturday and Tuesday, throughout 7 of the finest stages that Watopia has on offer. Over the course of the tour we'll be climbing around 3,000 metres, covering a total distance 280 kilometres thereabouts. I'll be racing in category A, my ZRS, just above 700, and we're starting off with the sugar cookie route. 33.6 kilometres with 250 metres climbing. Got some stats at the beginning of the tour for you. So it's just under 80 kilos, FTP around the 4 watts a kilo mark, my 5-minute effort for the Z map 4.7 watts a kilo. VO2 max was around 59.1. So a slow start to this race, everyone's sticking together on the descent, and we've got 4 segments or so of sprints before we get to the base of the epic calm. Now there's no point segments or anything in play on this tour, it's simply scratch races throughout. Who can get to the finish line fastest? Now the SISU tour for the Pinkki, they did have multiple sessions throughout each of the days, so even if you finish first in the race that you competed in, you're competing against people from different sessions in a general classification setup. 193 riders in this session, pretty busy, and we're going at a fast pace. I'm already hitting orange spikes, red spikes down at the power graph at the bottom of the screen. Just trying to keep up with the fast, real Cat A riders, the guys who have got Cat A pace. I'm a Cat B pace rider, but I've been fortunate enough to have a good ZRS, a good Zwift racing score. About 30 minutes into the race, I'm slapping the emojis, letting people know I'm tired, giving up the chase. My first stage of this tour, and it's not off to a great start. The pack were just simply too strong for me to keep up with. Averaging 298 watts until I gave up the chase. Pretty decent effort, and you can see that's gradually came down as I went on my solo route to the end of the race. Coming up to this climb, the epic calm, it's usually about a 20-minute climb, but we do veer off once we get to a bypass area at the top. I was fortunate enough to get this rider from Portugal that I could use for a draft. Even though it's a long climb, the draft still does help save a few watts of effort. I did offer to try and go in front and take my turn pulling here, but Portuguese guy is not having any of it. He's got the better legs than me already, so he's happy to pull.
It's just stronger than me.
That's the part where we've deviated from the epic calm, and we're going to follow this road round to the jungle section. We've got another rider joining us, Cesar. Giving him the shoulder here, saying we can take turns, try and close the gap to the guys in front. 30 seconds to make up, which is not any small measure. Still got some energy left in the tank for the 6k or so remaining here. Not as much energy as Cesar. He went Tonto coming in the final section of that hill. I do manage to close in on him on the descent as we come through the gravel. Now my concern here is who's behind me. We've got a 20-second gap to a lot of the riders who are closing in on me. Been trying to work with Cesar to take turns, share the load, and get to the finish line without being caught. These guys are closing in fast. 7 seconds, 5 seconds. It's clear now we're not catching anyone up front. It's just trying to save our position from the guys catching us from behind. But we're looking, the mirror behind me, and I think the writing's on the wall here as well. Yeah, overrun by a larger group. That many in the pack, there's not much you can do. They're going to be far more efficient at conserving watts and taking turns than I am in a 1 or 2 ride. Try and give it a bit of oomph for the sprint finish, but I'm only managing 500 odd watts. Legs are really spent after that effort. Stuff. So coming in at 249th overall that stage, 198th out of the Cat A riders. Straight on to stage 2, radial rendezvous, 33.6k with 250 metres climbing. Now this is a hilly stage. I've chosen the specialised S-Works Atheos bike with the Wake lava wheels, the fastest climbing setup that I've got. SISU must have thought it was funny to give us an anvil power up for this route. Feathers are the way forward. It's going to be a lot of climbing. I'm sporting the polka dot hat, Maglio Ciclamino blue jersey, nod to the Giro, but under no illusions I'm not going to be the fastest one climbing today. But I'm doing well, still mingling in the top 10 over this first over the first mine climb. As we go down the grade, take a moment just to take a breather, take on some fluids, and even from the back of the pack, my momentum was enough there to catapult me straight to the front. I'll be carrying too much timber. I do love the grade. There's no hiding on this. It's just relentless 15 minutes up a hill. You get a wee blue level out here, but the key is just to push right through that. Don't settle. I'm using all the tricks of the trade that I've got when we get to these steeper slopes in the snow. Cutting the corners where I can, trying to draft where I can. I don't know if you'll get much draft at 11% gradient, but sometimes that's just the placebo that you need to keep moving. Look at that graph at the bottom. A lot of orange, a lot of yellow, a lot of red. Again, I'm sitting at quite a high average output, 296 watts on average. I've still got climbing left to do here. Done well to try and keep this pack before the radio tower climb. I just don't have the legs in the final stint. This is where it really gets steep. 13%. You can see the graphic at the top of the screen. It's just screaming at me. When it flashes, you know it's going to be a tough gradient. Beginning to see some of the riders coming down from the radio tower. The guys that have already completed the stage. But sitting 20th position out of 123 riders, stage 2. I'm pretty pleased with that at the minute. I think the bike choice and the wheels have paid off. Now I've hit a 20-minute, almost PB, silver. So that's second best 20-minute output at 324 watts. Crossing the line in 19th position on that stage. Overall, out of all the stages for stage 2, it was 97th, Cat A, and 101st. I got an FTP bump as well in that stage, which is really chuffed at.
Come on, I'll take that.
2 watts, but it's going in the right direction.
Wee FTP bump.
Into stage 3, Watts of the Wild in Watopia, 42k, with 303 metres climbing. Climbs are spread throughout this route. Different bike choice in this one, same wheels, but I went for the S-Works Tarmac SL8, fastest road bike in the game at the minute. One of the larger attended sessions, this one. 370 riders in this race. And you can see early on, there's gaps already. We're only, not long into the race. And there's a breakaway section. And I do try and do my bit in this beached area to try and close the gap. Telling people let's take turns. I think I'm feeling positive that I've got some energy in the tank to spend on this. And good to see we've got some efforts from the guys around us. One of my fellow Rolco riders, Luke Mum No Hands, Steve, he's with us today as well. He's putting in a decent effort to close the gaps for us. Up to around 150th, top half of the stage competitors, so pretty chuffed with how this is going so far. I got one of the trickier hills out of the way. But again, it's a really tough pace this early on in the stage. You see my average watts a kilo there, 4.4. Watts were averaging 315 or something around that point as well. Coming into the suppressor, do put in an extra effort thinking I can close this gap here, and I think that leaves Luke Mum No Hands, one of my Rolco colleagues, left him in the pack behind us, unfortunately. This pack's moving at a good speed, and it's really making me work just to catch onto the wheel of it while I recover. Nothing worse when you're chasing a pack and you find that pack separates again into a smaller pack. So again, another dig, trying to push into the larger group here. Not benefiting much draft, trying to close this gap, so really having to work for it. Jeez, oh, what a 20 minutes. Fast forward a bit later in the race, 10k to go. And we're coming up to the Titan's Grove Comb. Oh, I'm not ready for this climb. The pace has dropped a bit. Average watts a kilo down to about 3.5. So I've had some recovery, but a bit reluctant about going into this final climb. Nice sea of red on that power bar at the bottom of the screen going up that hill there. On the downhill, there's little chance for a breakaway. Most of us descending as a group and enjoying what recovery we can before the final 2k. And there are a group ahead of us that we've managed to close in on as we've come down that hill pretty quickly. You can just see them just up ahead. Got them circled. 2k to go. I think we're smelling blood. A few of the riders want to race out front and see if they can catch them. There's no need, we're all going to catch them as a group. I think we've got the numbers game on them, much like I was full on in my first stage. Yeah, just like that, we've got them caught with 700 metres to go. So, entering the top 100 out of 375 riders. Pretty chuffed with that, but it's took a lot of effort out of the legs just to get here. This final bend is where you want to really open the legs and punch your sprint in. But with a lot of work done, it's difficult. What am I hitting there? 10, 11, what's a kilo? Managing a decent sprint, shaving off a few places for the finish line. So from about 100 down to 85 there on my sprint. Overall 170th out of that stage. Out of Cat A I was 157th. That brings my general classification down to 61 and 67 for overall. Stage 4 is an individual time trial, 25.6k on the Beach Island Loop, 98 metres climbing, not much climbing really to talk of, but we'll get 2 laps of this Beach Island Loop. Now, I'm not a great fan of TTs if I'm honest. There's no draft, so it changes the dynamic of the race completely. I've sped this one up a good deal as I don't think they're as entertaining as other races to watch either. But in the first lap I'm probably more reserved here, wondering about conserving my energy and my times for it. But I think I'm in a good position. It's probably one of the quieter sessions that I've joined. There's only 53 riders in this. It's probably not as popular with it being an individual time trial too.
Yeah, we need to get out of the saddle. Put some efforts here.
But yeah, coming into the end of the first lap, and I'm thinking I've got some gas left to burn, so getting out the saddle when I can, getting some extra power in. Wondering if I can break that top 10 position. Again, averaging around 300 watts throughout that for the first lap. My FTP around 315. There's some wiggle room to push that a bit harder. I found myself from about quarter way through this lap to about halfway through getting sucked in by these other riders that I was surrounded by. Individual time trial, I need to remember that. Yeah, that's it in time trials. Doesn't matter how quick the rest of the pack are going, should you just race to your own watts. I don't know, I always like to see a carrot dangled.
Go your own pace. Don't know why I'm looking in the mirror. See another rider just up ahead. 10 seconds though. Give me a safety blanket on my predicted 10th position. Martinez is quite quick behind me. Won't be surprised if he catches me.
So I'm into the top 10, 2 kilometres to go. Pretty chuffed with that already. Now I've got a rider 5 seconds ahead, another one 15 seconds ahead of him. Martinez 12 seconds behind. But coming into the final K, it's just a stretch too far to catch the Brazilian ahead of me.
That's got to be the FTP one.
89th place out of 102, Cat A.
Yeah.
51st out of 61st in the overall general classification. Stage 5 is Shorelines and Summits, a longer route at 46.2k and a whopping 773 metres climbing. You can tell by the route profile, pretty flat, and then SISU do like to punish us. We're going up the radio tower again. Epic calm followed by radio tower. It's going to be a wild one. I'm certain a lot of the riders competing in this series, they're aiming to get like their best 20 minutes at the start of these sessions because it's just a relentless pace, and I really struggled to keep touch with the group in this opening stint, having to dig deep, going right into the orange and the red bars just to stay in the running with the main group. It's a fairly well attended session, this one, 109 riders. And we're into the business end of the race as well. You know, into stage 5 I believe this was, so a lot of the guys that are here are meaning business. They're here for cementing their position in the general classification. Not much to speak of in the opening section. Nice and flat, so there's not really been any breakaways or anything. You can see just coming into the start of the climb.
Here we go then.
Still in top 10
30
position.
minutes of climbing at least.
I'm going to speed up the climb obviously. Let's see how we get on. I quickly lost touch of the guys at the front of the climb, but we did find a smaller group, 4 or 5 riders that were similar pace to myself and climbing ability. Again, do my best to try and hold on to these riders, and keep it as an incentive not to lose any further positions. Coming over the crest at the top of the Epic Calm, do get a little bit of respite for a bomb down the hill and a super tuck and try and recover for a few seconds. Again, doing my best here just to try and keep myself in the mix with these half a dozen riders or so that broke away. But fully aware we've got another stint up this radio tower. Now again, I've got another PB, almost a PB, sorry, silver, which means second best effort for 60 minutes this time, as I come over the crest of the Epic Calm. Don't think I noticed that at first, but it's reassuring that I'm in good form on these races. Now, these races were coinciding with one of the dirt racing series as well that was held on a Tuesday night throughout the month of May. So some of these days I was racing twice in a day. Some was racing in the afternoon, racing SISU in the evenings. Pretty demanding efforts, but the back-to-back efforts I think were doing wonders for my FTP. Coming up to the top of the radial tower climb, and I'm into the gold area for 60-minute efforts. Personal best effort for 1 hour segment. I was well aware of it by that point, pushing myself towards getting the gold marker. Now, the best thing about climbing for me is being able to bomb it down the hills. So knowing we've got 11 kilometres left, and I'm in 19th position, I'm thinking I'm a heavier rider than most, especially most of the guys that would be ahead of me. So I'm thinking I can maybe make up a few places here. I really enjoy sprinting into some of these descents, where a lot of the guys may just take it easier and allow the gravity to do the work for them. But putting in an extra effort, you'll get your overall speed a bit higher coming down the hill. Slowly and surely clawing a gap back to the guys in front of me. That was down from like 15 seconds, I think. So we go through that green barrier, they're in touch now, just coming into the jungle section. A couple of riders notice that I'm gaining on them. I think try and make a breakaway where they know I'll be exhausted, having caught them from that. So there's 3 kilometres to go. I'm really feeling it and telling the guys, like, you know, it's not going to be me that's closing the gap to anyone in front. I'm toast. I'm just happy to be in somebody's draft at the minute. Still no respite to go with a kilometre left. Pace does ramp up a bit and we're all fighting for kind of top 20th position. And with 400 metres to go, I pull the trigger, thinking, let's see what I've got left. Pop my power up, draft boost, which isn't really going to benefit me in a breakaway, but if I catch a guy in front, it will. The rest of the guys follow suit as well. And the finish line is just under this stone arch here. So, finishing there in 16th position, I think it was. 15th position, sorry. Just tipped in the final sprint.
Oh man.
Stage 5, 89th out of 133 Cat A riders. 38th out of 48 Cat A riders in general classification. Penultimate stage is Volcano Climb After Party. We've got 38.9 kilometres with 285 metres climbing. As you can expect, it's climbing up a volcano at the end of this stage. So mostly flat until we get to the volcano at the end of it. And at the volcano you'll be looking at round about an 8-minute climb or so. Now this stage coincided with the final DRS race, Dirt Racing Series race. So instead of racing on a Tuesday, I opted to race this event on the Monday evening at like 10 PM.
Legs are feeling really fatigued. It's a lot of starting and stopping, short bursts, rather than high pressure. Legs have been killing me all day. So, I could do a rest after this racing series finishes. End of this week.
But I've got a friend for company in this race. Got Flat Pedal Diesel, Bradley. He's based over in Canada, so a nice time of the day for him to be racing, but not me at 10 PM.
Really don't know how Bradley does it. The amount of mileage he's putting in. 20,000 kilometres a year in Zwift. It's just insane. I'm half of that total diesel type, if there ever is one. This boy's on. So see his graphs on his races in his channel. It's just a solid bar of yellow, solid bar of orange. Whereas mine's is it's like I'm on a lie detector test or something.
I started getting some connection issues in this race.
Every time the connection drops like this, I have to put in an extra effort to make sure I don't get dropped. There's no draft. Very nearly dropped.
Really frustrating when that happens. You don't get any benefit of the draft if you're invisible. Likewise, people can't draft off you. But it really shook my concentration, I think, in stage 6.
You dropped a few there.
Also my companion app, that wasn't connected to the network. So it was beginning to be a real pain to try and communicate to guys like Bradley in the race. And just see, you know, how far the gaps were to people in front of him.
But that's my message coming through. Yeah, companion app doesn't look to be connected. Might be in the wrong network, maybe that's why. We're running 2 routers at the minute. I might explain my dropouts.
Yeah, with all this confusion that was going on with my network connection, I was completely unaware that Bradley's dropping a couple of seconds behind. He's putting in a decent effort at 5 watts a kilo to try and keep the pack, but if I was more switched on, I would have probably offered him a wheel to get back in the pack.
It's Bradley dropped, I just noticed. Ah, shit, mate, sorry.
The network connection's nothing to do with Zwift itself, it's my own self-inflicted pain, unfortunately. Moving internet service providers, going from ADSL broadband to fibre optic, and stupidly was testing out 2 router setups that day and forgot to switch one of them off, the new routers off, before getting into this race. So some Wi-Fi interference was really messing up my signals in my devices. Since made the decision to hardwire everything, Ethernet, Cat6, and it's night and day, to be honest. So if you're ever thinking about moving to Ethernet cable for Zwift, definitely do it. It's a game changer in terms of connection drops.
Not get the legs for the climb today. That's what I'm saying.
Yep, 4k to go, and Bradley calls me out, saying he's challenging me to do a sub 8 minute climb up this volcano. It was a recent feature in one of the Rolling Collective competitions that we do in our Discord. Every week we'll pick a segment on Watopia or somewhere else on the maps, challenge to see who's got the best time across that segment. Quite an interesting way to look at some of these efforts rather than do full races. You can go out and do these segments any time of your choice, any time of your choosing. But with 8 minutes as a target, I'm a sucker for a challenge, if I'm honest, and start to put in some big watts to climb up this volcano. Do get a slight bit of respite on this boardwalk bit, and we've got our Brazilian friend back from on the previous stages. I think he just bet me in stage 4 in the ITT. I'm putting in an extra effort at the top of the volcano, trying to see if I can catch him here. And not done. He just done enough to beat me. Well done, Poopy Lynn.
Couldn't give an extra kick there.
So 74th out of 134 riders, Cat A, and 39th out of 49 riders in general classification. Final stage, dust in the wind, 52.1 kilometres and a sizable 583 metres climbing. It's by no means a flat race, this one, even though we're going through some of the flattest parts of Watopia and Tempest Fugit route towards the end of the race, but we've got a lot of climbing to do in the first half of the route, first 3/4 possibly before we get there. Again, I've still had some intermittent connection issues on this stage. Hadn't quite worked out what my problem was with my home network by this point. And I was still persistent with Wi-Fi before I got the Ethernet connection sorted. Titanscom, I'm beginning to really like this climb. You know, 2-3 minutes effort and you can really recover on the downhill. That recovery there, you might have seen me come off the bike. I had to switch off the access point that was interfering with the broadband Wi-Fi. To also text my wife and ask her to switch off any other access points from our new setup that were in the house as well, just to give me a kind of cleaner connection, and thankfully the connection's settled for the remainder of this race. But my trainer didn't. So I did a slight effort there, like a sprint, trying to put in some watts. The bloody power connection just came loose in the back of my trainer. I sped up how long that took me to get reconnected again, but it was a good minute. And it's really cost me from a position in this session. Did find another group that were behind me. But throughout this race, it's kind of feeling that I had extra gas in the legs and could have worked harder in a group, but nothing individually that I could have done to close the gap between where I was from being dropped to catching the group that I was previously in. It's a fair climb coming up this section and going into the jungle section again. Now, my old friend Luke, Mum No Hands, is just ahead of me in here, and I do spot him on the mini-map and the guys on the right hand side of the leaderboard, and I spot that he's been dropped, so I put in an extra effort just to try and help Steve regain position into the group. Not paying enough attention as I responded to Steve, and I found myself almost dropped from the group that we just caught. An extra effort on the downhill and I can regain that place. Fast forward as we come out of the jungle climb again, out of the jungle lip, and making our way back up to partway through the epic calm. Again, still got some gas in my legs. After that climb, I think I decided to put in an extra stint here and just enjoy the downhill in a super tuck. Take on some recovery in a gel and some water. The group repacks as we're coming into the last 17 kilometres of the race. Again, we're going back over the Titans Grove column. This time in opposite direction, I think. And we're all at the business end of this race series. 7 long, arduous stages. Almost 270 kilometres covered by this point. Never mind what other racing and events we're doing in between it. And 3,000 metres climbing throughout the 7 stages. After that ascent on the Titans column, it's really all downhill. Straight into the flats of the eastern, isn't it? Eastern section of Watopia. Always assume it's western with the Wild West, but no, it's east of Watopia. Now, 3k to go. I've got an aero power up. Do try and put in some efforts to try and encourage the pace of the rest of the riders. It is a general classification competition after all. And I've got a decent 5-minute effort from one of the previous climbs there. Second best position with a silver trophy on that at 384 watts. Coming into the final kilometre, we've got a breakaway from one of the riders out front. I'm a bit apprehensive at first of whether I go full gas to close that down. And then, honestly looking back, I think what I've done is probably just helped to lead out some of the other riders. I know I've still got my power up. 500 metres to go. It's never really to use it. So I've got a draft here, 400 metres to go. I'll try and use that to build up my sprint finish. My legs are feeling it. Cadence is really low, 60. Not really what you're wanting for a sprint, but I think after all the effort this month and for this race, my legs are feeling slightly fatigued. Coming across the line.
Legs went wrong button.
44th, is that? For my group.
Okay.
In Cat A.
It felt a wee bit slow.
106th out of 124 for Cat A for stage 7. And general classification finishing in 36th position out of 41 riders from category A. I did have another couple of riders in that session that were competing for top position in general classification, so it was great to see that come in. Here's a comparison of my stats towards the end of the series. Got my stats after Pinkki towards the right hand side of the screen, and you can see I've got a few PBs there to be proud of. So that's it for this race series. Thoroughly enjoyable. Would encourage anyone that's thinking about taking part in the SISU Grand Tours to just do it. They're really great. The tour coming up for Tour de France that coincides with that, they've got much more going on as well with sprint and comm segments throughout. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you watching.